Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Player's Sake episode 106. I'm your host, Justin and joined by my co-host, the Nephilim, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? You know, Diablo-centric nickname this week. You know, we're going to be talking BlizzCon, so...
Oh, I forgot all about Blizzcon. I really did.
You did?
Yeah.
How, man, was it that bad? Oh, God, we'll get into it. You know, teaser for later. So, Montrell, how are you doing, man? How's life? How's life treating you?
Back to work, and I found out I got paid for all that time off too, so that's good.
Man, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So everything here in Texas is back to normal. You know, it was 80 degrees yesterday, and you know, what a world we live in. 2 degrees last Monday, and this week it was 80. So, you know, it's a normal Texas winter. I also had some fun this week. Yesterday, there was a fucking bird in my dryer duct, and I had to deal with that yesterday morning. It wasn't that big of an ordeal. Like, you know, we undid the dryer duct, and the bird was like it was basically where the duct connects to the dryer. It was like in that tube or whatever, and the thing wouldn't come out though. It was like stuck in there and it didn't want to come out. It was like scared out of its fucking mind, obviously. It was trying to get out, but we kept hearing this pitter patter noise. It's like, you know, it's like really loud, dude. It was really loud. We thought something was in our walls, you know, like a fucking possum or something, you know? And no, we ended up pinpointing it to the dryer. But while I was getting I was trying to get something out of our toolbox to like get the bird out or whatever, and it just like flew out of the dryer duct into the garage, and my wife just started fucking screaming. She was like, ah! I was like, what happened? And then I just see this bird flying around like crazy in my garage. You know, and I opened the garage door and it flew out. And you know, that was that. But in the middle of it though, I was like so groggy, dude, like in the morning, because you know it was before work. Like it was like an hour before I normally wake up, and my wife just woke me up, and you know, I was like, hey, I hear something. Like, what? Like, can you come look at this, dude? I was so tired. I was just like, I'll just deal with it later. I'm going back to sleep. And I literally just went back in my bed. It was just like, was just going to chill and deal with it later, you know? And my wife was like super pissed. So, you know, that's been my week so far, you know, dealing with stray birds and whatnot. What about you?
My week has been pretty cool so far. I've been pretty chill. I don't know. Nothing really happened. I've just been busy all day.
No wild animals Texas, coming into your house?
Yeah. I mean, out here in Texas, where I work at, one of the places I work at, like one of the centers went down and we had to take care of that, but that's about it. I mean, we also have like so I live in a condo, and so we don't get traditional, like, you know, building maintenance. Like, we have to go to the president, and we have a landlord who rents out his condo to us.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So
they don't do maintenance?
They have to hire, I mean, because it's like, these are like people's homes. So they have like, you know, either they have a condo board or something like that. I don't know how the condo thing really works, but we have to go through our landlord, and the landlord has to go through the president or the board association, and then they have to do repairs and stuff like that. But we've been having like stealth updates on our patio. And when I say stealth updates, like they've revamped the little gate, the little
like you go to bed and then you wake up in the morning and you have like a different gate.
Yeah.
Different,
yeah,
you know, like fence
shit.
boards.
Like, and we live on the second floor, so we don't know how they're doing this. Like, they put up a new little fence or whatever for our patio one day, and I'm like, Indiana's like, yo, did you know that they're working on the patio? I'm like, no, what did they do? And they changed out the entire, because we were talking about the patio. I was like, man, this shit looks really dangerous. We need to change this shit out. And they just did it. Yeah. And then, so the other day, that was like 2 months ago. So I get a text again, and she's like, yo, they painted the patio. And I'm like, they did? And they did. And we have like home renovator ninjas running around. And I don't know where they're. When
they got like little gremlins who are, you know, they wake up in the night, and you know, they do all this work, and then they're gone in the morning, you know.
Yeah, because by the way, I was at home all week last week, so they couldn't have done it then. They had to do it on Monday because both of us were at work. she works from home like I think Wednesday through Friday. So and I don't work from home anymore. So they had to do it on Monday and Tuesday because
Mhm.
there's just no way they did it like and that's another thing. They were so fast with it. Like they came out immediately after like the whole winter thing came out. So it was just weird. So
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Yeah, that's pretty. That is pretty nuts. That seems really shady. Like,
I mean, you don't
you
have to
know.
get to the you don't have to come through our apartment to get to the patio. It's just outside. So
Yeah, but the fact that you didn't even see it like in the middle of being worked, like it was all just done, you know? Like one day you had a new patio, the next day it was painted, you know? It's like there's no in between. There wasn't like the first night you come home and like, you know, some of the boards aren't all the way up yet. They just did the base or whatever of the patio. Like it was just like all done, you know, the whole thing was just done. It's pretty wild, man. I don't know yeah, that's kind of scary actually, you know? Like they have like a sleeper cell squad or something that's just like, you know, they just activate at like, you know, midnight and
it's like a
they
Windows
just
stealth update. Like it was just
yeah.
weird and I don't know, man. That was my day because I mean it happened before. They took down the patio thing. We went
Mhm.
out there and I'm like, "Did you know they're working on a patio?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, half our fence is missing, or half the little patio railing thing is missing." So we called our landlord. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm working on it or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I mean, it was in the middle of wintertime anyway, so no one's going out there. So whatever.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, like that happened, and then yeah, we just got like another stealth update. They just fucking painted over the fucking patio thing. I like it; it's nice, but it's like, damn, like what the fuck?
Hey
So
man. Hey, you know, it's better than them doing it in the middle of the night and waking you up and
yeah,
well,
exactly,
however they did it. It's kind of mind-boggling though. Like
exactly. Like we didn't
they
see
must have
any
done it when
equipment.
you were at work, you
They
know?
had
And
to.
they were just quick about it, you know. They got in there at like, you know, 10 after you'd left and then they left at like 4 before you came home, you know.
That
Like
is pretty scary, actually, once you think about it.
like they did all that in 6 hours. Man, no one's that efficient, you know? Like
Yeah,
most contractors just want to like drag it out, you know? So
exactly, and and they usually like leave equipment around or something like that too.
right, right.
Like
There's some sign they were there, you know?
yeah,
Like
like these were like Wintervator ninjas, so I need to know who they are so I can hire them to do
yeah.
more stuff.
Right, right. Right, they did such a good job too. Like crap. Well, okay. Well, this is not a home, you know, a home renovating show. This is a video game podcast where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And as I've been saying weekly, please send us your questions on Twitter at the Player's Take, or you send us an email to the Player's Take 01 at gmail.com. Any topic that you want to send us a question about, please do. We will be glad to answer anything in the news or something that we didn't cover in the news that you think we should have covered, or maybe we missed something along those lines. We'd be happy to talk about it. So, all right, Montrell, let us jump into the show proper, like we always do, with what we've been playing. Would you like to go first
I'm
this
actually
week?
going to skip out because I've been playing the same shit this week, so it's
Okay.
really no change right
I'll just read it for people. Final Fantasy 12 Remastered and League of Legends. He has nothing to say
now.
about those games. You know, must be very riveting.
I actually haven't touched Final Fantasy in a while, so um, yeah,
Should that even be on there?
it should. I'm still playing it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. I guess I'll go into what I've been playing. So, after the Nintendo Direct last week, I decided, you know, I'm an SRPG degenerate, and Triangle Strategy was, you know, I said it last week. It's literally a game like fucking made for me. So I downloaded that demo, and checked it out, and I have some thoughts on this game actually. I am okay. So going into it, I don't know how excited I was. You know, strategy games are really hit or miss a lot of the time, whether they're good or not. Now, I will say Square Enix is like probably the only AAA developer that I would trust with a strategy RPG. Maybe obviously Intelligent Systems with Fire Emblem, they're another one, and then maybe Atlas. They're probably the only other one I can think of. Like that's like AAA. For the most part, the rest of the genre kind of comes from indies. That's where the good games come from, at least, or smaller studios, like smaller teams. AAA studios don't make these kind of games. They really don't, because they don't sell very well, and there's very few of them that do. So that's why I was so surprised that Square announced this game, because this is I don't know which of their teams is making this, but they, in the demo, when you beat it, they mention that it's part of their quote 2D HD series of games. So they are throwing this in with like Octopath Traveler, and that game and whatever else they have planned for that kind of art style. But it's actually interesting because it doesn't look the same as Octopath. Like, it's not as clean as Octopath was. Like Octopath was like had really clean sprites, and really clean models. This game's a little bit more, kind of reminds me more of older like PS1 style SRPGs like Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics. It kind of has more of a look like that.
Okay.
But in terms of the game, so the demo took me probably 3 hours to get through, which sounds meaty, and it was. But there were only two battles in that 3 hours. So
Wow.
this is where I'm gonna criticize this game, because I actually think it's gonna have problems when it comes out if it sticks with the formula it's got. Because basically the game lets you play 2 chapters in the middle of the game. It was like chapters 6 and 7, I think. And on a personal level, they were interesting enough. The game was engaging. However, this game is really verbose. At least the part they put you in is really verbose. Like, I'd say half the time I was playing the game was cutscenes and like characters talking, for the most part. And that is a double-edged sword with this kind of game, because they're not engaging enough as it is with their gameplay for people who don't like this style of gameplay. And when you add in a story that's really dense and extremely complicated, it's really going to turn a lot of people off, and it's going to make a title like this really niche. In my opinion, I'm not sure how successful this game is going to be if it sticks with that formula, because like, dude, before I even got into a battle, it was like 30 minutes, like of cutscenes. It was fucking crazy, dude. I'm like, and I like this stuff, and even I'm just like, this is too much, I just want to fucking fight the battles,
Yeah.
And the battles aren't long either. The first battle probably took me 20-30 minutes maybe to finish. It really wasn't that long of a battle, and it wasn't that difficult either. So it was kind of, I don't know. I'm a little tepid on it, to be honest, because I think a game like this, I'm looking for something that's more about the combat at this point than I am about a story that's this dense. As much as I love Tactics Ogre, that game has a dense story, and it kind of, I think for some people would probably suffer for it. Because if you're gonna have a story-based game, the story needs to be good. And unfortunately, this 3-hour snip that I got, I can't tell if the story is going to be good, and yeah, I'm not so sure about that. So the other parts of this game, though, there is that there's obviously the story to set up the battles, then there's the battle themselves, but also in between that, there's also a segment of the game where you kind of explore kind of an environment before you fight. That both chapters had this element to it. The first one was really short and small. You couldn't really talk to very many people, and the area you were running around in was small. But the second one, you actually had a whole town open to you, and there were a lot of NPCs to talk to. And the crux of that segment for the second chapter was you were trying to make a decision on what to do, and the decision was whether to give up the prince or not to the like invading army, to basically surrender him and save the people. And you had to like gather information from the townsfolk and from other characters in order to talk to the NPCs that were voting in order to sway their votes, because you get a vote, but you're only one of like 9. And the other NPCs, like the vote is actually determined by majority. So like you get one vote, but if everybody votes against you, like it's going to go the other way, So it's kind of an interesting mechanic. But it's bloating a game that's already like seems like it's bloated with exposition, you know. So I don't know. I mean, Montreal, how does that sound to you? Am I describing a game that you want to play right now?
Uh, no. The only reason I say no right now is because the reason I haven't even played Persona is because I'm not in that right headspace right now to play it.
Yep,
I just
I
got
know what
done
you mean.
playing like a couple of even though Resident Evil is not a story heavy game, I mean that was my action game because after I was playing Resident before I was playing Resident Evil, I was playing another RPG.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just like I really don't want to play any RPGs right now. So that's why I've kind of been avoiding all the stuff that I need to play. Uh, as far as that, I think though maybe this game is going to be like Fire Emblem in a way, to where like it's a lot of story stuff at the beginning, but then towards
Hmm.
the middle of the game and the end of the game, it's just gonna be like battle after battle after battle. Because that's how Three Houses was to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of story stuff and getting to know
Well,
your
there's a lot of useless what I would consider almost wasting time in the monastery.
yeah, exactly. I was just gonna
Um,
say that, like, getting to know your
yeah.
crewmates and or your classmates and all that other stuff like that. And then once I got to the middle of the game, but that took me like maybe 15 hours to get to the not the I don't know, not 15
Might even be
hours.
more than that, dude. That game is insanely dense,
Yeah,
like, which is my biggest criticism of it.
yeah. And it's hard to replay because of that, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
once you
you
get to
spend more time in the monastery than you do in battles, and
yeah,
that's like not fun after a while, you know?
yeah. And once you get past all that and you start actually fighting and stuff like that, then like the game is really good in that aspect. I feel like
Hmm.
this game is doing the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm on the fence on that because on one hand, yes, we need games that have stories and stuff like that, and on the other hand, like sometimes I just want to get to the battles. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm 50-50 on it right now, to be honest with
Yeah. I'll need to see more of it. I do assume there will be another demo at some point in the future after they've taken feedback from this one and made some changes, and then they do it again because the game's not coming until 2022. So we've got at least a year, probably a year and a half at least, till the game's coming out. It might even be longer than that, potentially, but it depends on how Square wants to position this game. Um, because the game has another problem though, being so story focused, is that the voice acting is just absolutely bad.
Oh, I didn't know
Like,
there was voice. I thought it was gonna be text based.
dude, it's I don't like bagging on voice acting. I really don't, but it's hard not to call it out when it's this bad. Like it really is just so, like, the main character you play as, his name is Sarah Noah, and his lines are just delivered with no charisma or emotion whatsoever, dude. He just says things in this just deadpan, like, people, he's literally like running away from an army's trying to kill him, and he's like, we need to go fight those guys, it's like, okay, dude, it's like, he's like trying to like get people riled up, and so it was completely fell flat for me. And hopefully this is a Japanese voice option, or if there isn't a Japanese voice option, I may just turn the voice acting off, because when it's this bad, it really will ruin the game. It like, Bait and Katos is one of my favorite games I've ever played, and the voice acting in that game is completely insufferable. Like, cannot play it with the voice acting on. So I've had it happen in the past where I've had to do that, but I'm gonna give it a chance. I just don't know how much of a chance I'm going to give it, because yeah, it's not what I heard so far is not great. There are a few characters that are decent, but for the most part, it is just really deadpan. Like, delivery is just so, like, completely lacks any charisma whatsoever, and that is not good for a game that's trying to be story focused, especially one that is a strategy RPG. Trying to tell a really dense political story. It's just, I don't know. So um I'm not, like, not excited about the game. I'm just kind of, I've been muted a little bit by what I played. Like, I need to see more of it. And they're really going to have to prove it out, I think, over the, next time they show the game, or if there is another demo, they need to show me a better part of the game than what they showed me, because right now I'm like really in the middle on it. Like, I'm gonna play the game. I'm that much of a degenerate. I don't care how bad this is. I'm gonna play it. Probably, especially given that it's coming from Square. But I'm gonna be honest about it though. I'm not gonna mince words. Like if the game's not great, I'm gonna say that. And strategy RPGs aren't for everyone. They absolutely aren't for everyone. And story heavy strategy RPGs, like they're definitely not for everyone. They require a time investment that is large. Like a Persona game. Which is like when you said that, I totally understand what you're saying. It took me 4 years to get in the headspace to want to play Persona, and it's like, so this isn't going to be that bad because I mean, it's not going to be as dense as a Persona game. That's like impossible. But, even half of that though is still a lot,
Yeah.
So yeah, check that out. I also checked out the Bravely Default 2 demo as well because this game's been intriguing me. Montreal, I know you were looking forward to this game as well, right?
Yes, I am actually.
Okay, well, it's coming out on Friday, which by the time you hear this, it will be out. You'll be able to buy it. But I wanted to check out the demo because I was really on the fence with this game, and I actually think the demo sold me on it.
Really?
This is this is an instance where I'm glad they do demos. Square's really seems pretty big on demos actually, and it's to their credit because as much as like the fact that I didn't love triangle strategy, like it doesn't mean I'm gonna not play the game. I just want to see improvements, and when they give that survey out to like give feedback, I'm gonna give them really honest feedback about it, and hopefully they take that and can make some changes. But Bravely Default 2, this is a demo really more of for you to try the game and try it right before it's coming out, so you can see if you like it. And that's kind of what happened with me. They sold another copy based off that demo. Because while I don't think this game's gonna be like the best JRPG I'm ever gonna play, it looks like a marked improvement over the original game that I played way back on the 3DS like a long time ago. The graphics are obviously much improved. I will say comparing the voice acting between this game and Triangle Strategy, it's like night and day. It is way better. It's not like the best voice acting I've ever heard, but it's good enough where I'm good with it. Plenty the characters that are in your party, most of them have like very good, like they have good line delivery. There's a decent amount of charisma coming out of them, and even the NPCs you run into are kind of eccentric and a little crazy and stuff. So I was impressed enough with that aspect of it. In terms of gameplay, there seems to be an absolute massive number of classes in this game, jobs, from everything I've seen in the game, and then also like research I've done otherwise. I don't know how many there's going to be total, but it just seems like it's going to be a lot. So mixing and matching those is going to be really fun. And really kind of building the party out is going to be very, very interesting as well. So, in terms of the running around and exploration, the nice thing is that at least on the overworld, they got rid of random battles. No more random battles. You see the enemy on the field, and if you don't want to fight them, you don't have to, which is my style of JRPG. So thank God for that. So very happy about that too. So yeah, I'm planning on buying it. I don't know. I mean, Montreal, how much are you anticipating this game? Are you getting it Friday? Or are you gonna play it right away, or you gonna wait a little bit?
I'm gonna wait a little bit. I usually wait before I buy new games, so because I still have a lot of stuff to get through. So
Yeah, I do too. But I'm looking for something new.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm just not in the RPG mood right now. Like I'm looking back and I'm actually probably going to get the Devil May Cry Special Edition so I can play Virgil's side of things. That's what I'm really looking forward to, actually. So I'm looking for some more action games right now, and then once I get burnt out of action games, I'm probably just going to jump back into RPGs.
Well, I need to get you on Neo 2 with me. Because yeah, I've been playing that as well a little bit with my brother. And yeah, the game's really fun in co-op. There's no way around that. It is markedly easier so far. I will that's how it feels at least. But I will say the way the game works in co-op is really unforgiving actually, because in the normal version of the game, when you're playing by yourself, you can die as many times as you want in a mission, and there's no penalty besides losing your Amrita. But in co-op, you have this like bar that goes down every time one of you dies, and if the bar runs out, you fail the mission and have to start over from a checkpoint. But you like lose a shitload of rewards if you do that. So and if you don't continue, you have to do the whole mission again, which is, it can be up to an hour or more, for certain missions in the game. So it's like it's easier in your brain because it's like you're not always being targeted by the enemies. But in reality, it's like it actually kind of is harder because you have that bar, obviously, that like, health bar or whatever that you share with your teammate. But it's also like the enemies don't always target you, so when they all of a sudden turn around and start swinging at you, you're not really ready for it. You kind of just, it's really easy to get fucked up in a combo and just die in like 3 hits or whatever, because that's how Neo is. So but it is really fun though, like when you and your like partner are kind of like jiving, and like they got the enemy's attention, so you're like hitting the enemy in the back or whatever, and taking these opportunities to hit them. It's very rewarding. The game is as rewarding as it always was, even the original. In terms of the loot, I do want to reiterate, I think I talked about this the first time I played this, but like this game is so fucking dense, man, in terms of its complexity. Just the skill trees and the amount of abilities you have, like, dude, it's insane. There's 11 weapon types now in this game that all have their own skill tree. Then you have a samurai skill tree, which is like a generic, like, fighting, like, your weapon fighting skill tree, where you kind of enhance your ability to like switch stances and things like that. You have that tree. Then you have a tree for shifting, for yokai shifting, which is your like superpower, Super Saiyan move, basically, where you become invincible for a brief period of time. And then there's a tree for Onmyo magic and ninjutsu skills, which is just like, it's crazy, dude. It's so much to wrap your head around. And like, to me, it's like right on the borderline of being too much. I just love the damn game so much, I'm willing to like put up with it. But if this was something else, like, this is probably like, if this game was Dark Souls, there's no way I'd play this. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like there's a certain amount of complexity that needs to jive with the aesthetic and the setting and everything else, and it all seems to come together for me in Neo. But it doesn't work that way with every game. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. This game, it probably would be really intimidating, I think, coming in on, even if you're a Souls player. Like, I know Souls like has complexity, and there's definitely interesting stuff you can do in that game with builds and things like that. But I just like, this game is just, it's fucking absurd. Like how many layers of things there are that you can do in this game. It reminds me of like Grim Dawn, actually, in terms of its complexity. It's bonkers. So, still enjoying that. Also been playing Maneater, which I was playing last month. I've pretty much finished this. I'm like less than an hour away from getting the platinum, probably. I'm probably going to do that tonight after we're done recording. This was the game where you are a shark and you are basically just running around eating things and getting bigger. It's a silly game, but it's a really short game, kind of mindless. It's a really nice game to play when you want to listen to a podcast or something. It's like a 10-hour game to fully complete. It doesn't take very much time. It's very conducive to short sessions, like 1 or 2 hour play sessions. So if you got it last month during PS Plus, I definitely recommend it in that regard. If you're looking for something like quick and easy to play, and that's just like stupid, mindless fun, definitely recommend that. And then also been playing Apex. Not much to say there. Same old with that. Still enjoying it a lot. And yeah, that's it. That's all I've been playing. I've been playing a lot of shit. I know. I'm sorry. I've been talking for like 15 minutes straight. I'm sorry, Montrell.
It's all right.
Jesus. Okay. All right. Let's get into the news. Let us start with BlizzCon, which Montrell forgot about, but there was some announcements here. So first thing they showed was actually a remaster, re-release of some of their old school games, Rock and Roll Racing, Lost Vikings, and Blackthorn. Montreal, have you ever played any of those?
Lost Vikings and Blackthorn? No, I've
never heard of them.
Never heard of those.
Rock and Roll Racing? You never played Rock and Roll Racing?
You told me about Rock and Roll Racing.
Oh, so good. I almost might buy this collection just for that game, dude, because man, Rock and Roll Racing is so good, man. It's classic Super NES.
Well, you know what? The Vikings game I did hear about, and I always get
Mhm.
the Vikings game confused with that one game Capcom made, Ghost and Goblins. I always get those two games confused
Oh yeah.
because I didn't play Ghost and Goblins. I played the Vikings game, and when I saw like Arthur in like one of the later games of Capcom, I'm like, oh, is he from Blizzard? But it's not. It's not the same person, but they have the same
Mhm.
style of like gameplay. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after that, they went into World of Warcraft. They talked about Shadowlands, and there's a new patch coming out that we don't really care about that. But the thing that did come out of this that we probably might care about is that Burning Crusade Classic is coming this year. So what they said was they're going to re-release the game. It's going to be similar to the way they did Vanilla, where there would be like a staggered release schedule of content that came out with the game. But you're going to be able to transfer your classic characters that you have now to Burning Crusade if you want. But this is a one-time choice. So you either say yes or no, and whichever one you pick, that is it. You're done. So it's going to be an important decision. I'd probably just say, frankly, just leave your characters in classic and start over from scratch.
yeah,
Because you're going to want to play a Blood Elf or a Draenei probably.
yeah, I'm definitely
Um,
gonna play a blood. That's what I started out as a blood elf. So
yeah.
I may come back for this, but I'm
You
not.
think so?
I'm not
Montreal,
doing the
man, don't
crazy
give me.
shit. I'm not doing the crazy shit that we tried to do last time. I'm gonna come
Yeah.
back for because this is the one I wanted to play. Like everyone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play classic." I was playing Burning Crusade, and that's where I came back in. So
Dude,
I
I'll be
may,
honest with you. Yeah, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
I may come back for Burning Crusade because I played the Night Elf in Burning Crusade, and I played the
Mhm.
Blood Elf. So I did both sides. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Dude, as much as I talk up classic in my brain, like vanilla in my head, I think playing it made me realize, like, you know, this was probably best left in 2004, or 2005, because it just wasn't as fun as I remember it being. And Burning Crusade, if I'm being honest with myself, is the expansion where I peaked in my WoW enjoyment level. That was the expansion that I raided for the first time. Like, I didn't raid in vanilla at all, really, because it was too hard. It was like too hard to get a group together, to do it, because you needed like 40 people for every fucking raid. So Burning Crusade made that easier. Obviously, the raids were 25 mans, and then they had 10 mans too, which was something they introduced to make it a little bit more palatable to like actual raids that were 10 mans. Obviously, there were 10 mans in vanilla as well, like UBRS and some of the higher level instances you could 10 man them. But Burning Crusade really made like an actual raid that was a 10-man raid, which was Karazhan. And Karazhan might be my favorite World of Warcraft content like ever, that they ever released. That instance, I absolutely adore everything about that instance. I just love the style of it. I love the aesthetic. I love the music. I love the bosses. Like, all of it is just so good to me. So I don't know, man. I'm with you. I might jump back in. But I think it's one of those things. I've already talked to like our friends about it, as like, I don't like, we don't need to like make a big thing out of this. If
yeah,
we all
yeah.
happen to be playing it, we should jump on the same server, but I don't think we need to like pressure ourselves into be like, yeah, we're gonna fucking raid and we're gonna do endgame and it's gonna be fucking epic. We're gonna be owning people in PvP and shit. Like, no, dude. Like, let's
Yeah,
just play,
I'm
see where it
down to
takes
jump in
us.
the server, in the Discord
Yeah.
server.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be playing my own pace though, because that's what I did in Burning Crusade. I played at my own pace. I didn't join a guild until like I was like level 55 or some shit like that. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do. And yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah. And yeah, yeah, it's just like, I think it's one of those things too. If it takes me 3 months to get to max level, it takes me 3 months to get to max level. Like, who cares? It's like, we don't need to beat the server. We don't need to be server first. Fucking, like, we're not going to do that anyway. So, like, why even aspire to being quick? And honestly, I feel like we should probably just like not tell Jet, because he'll catch up in 3 days. Whatever level we get to, he'll be there in like 3 days, because that's just the kind of player he is.
yeah, that's
So
true. I mean, it'll probably take me like a
you know,
couple months to level up.
oh, for sure, dude. There's no way I'm gonna mainline this game. I'm not gonna do this over everything. Like, I just don't play games that way anymore.
Yeah,
So, which is what would be required to level fast. It's not worth it to me. Um, So yeah, that's exciting though. How do you feel about this though? That they're like just kind of like, do you think they're just gonna re-release all the expansions over like a
I I
15-year
I
period?
think it's pretty fucked up because we had servers and stuff like that that were doing this. That would I forgot what you call those servers. But we
The
had
private
the
servers,
private servers that would go through the updates constantly, and then
and they were free.
they're free and they'll restart over again. And Blizzard actually, I remember when I think we reported on this a couple years ago when they actually sent out the
We
cease
did.
and desist letters to all of them, and we said they must be doing something down the line for this because there wouldn't be any reason they're coming from these people like that. And yeah, and here we are. So I mean, I think they are. I think next year they're gonna do Wrath of the Lynch King, and then they're gonna do Cataclysm. Well, I don't think they're gonna go. Maybe they'll go to Cataclysm, but I don't think they're gonna do anything after that. They're gonna probably start over again, or have you start over again, or
Yeah,
something like that. Um,
yeah.
because I don't think the later expansions are as good as I think Cataclysm was where a lot of it died, in my opinion. Like, and they changed the whole landscape, and I thought that was really cool. But then that's when the level cap was like 120 or some weird shit, and it just got really obnoxious and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
hopefully they just stop at Lynch King. I think Lynch King was the
Yeah.
last good expansion they had, in my
They did
opinion.
call out Lich King too, when they were mentioning this, like
Okay.
when they were doing a deep dive after the initial announcement or whatever, and they did say like we've been hearing people clamoring for Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. So I think Lich King's a sure deal. Like we're definitely going to get Lich King. I think in like a year or two probably,
Yeah.
but yeah, my problem with this is like I think my issue with what they're doing here is that it just feels like the least they could do, you know? Like they're not doing anything interesting with these servers, you know? They're just literally just re-releasing the game, you know? Like as it was. And they're like doing these staggered content releases too, you know? And it's like, I mean, okay, is that
I
the best you guys
the
got?
staggered
Like,
thing I like, I guess, is because like an actual patch, like they're following the patch notes of
yeah.
the older times or whatever.
Which I like that too. But I think my thing is though is that they're not like doing anything special with these servers. Like there aren't some servers that level faster than others. There aren't some servers that have like different, you know, kind of rule sets to them or anything
That
like
I
that. And
would
they're
like.
not restarting new servers either. They haven't done any new servers since they initially launched. Like,
Yeah, that I
you
would
know,
like. I would like them to like have maybe a triple XP boost for like people who are actual adults. And
yeah,
I mean, I say that, but like people who do adulting but we still want to play this game. Like
yeah,
I would definitely join that server in a heartbeat. Like, oh, I can play for 4 hours and get to like level 15 or level 20 or something like that really fast. Like that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But yeah, or maybe I would actually like new content within that
Well, that's
stratosphere. Like,
yeah, dude. We talked about that. You know, when the classic first came out, it was like there was a potential for that, and they didn't go. They're not going for it though. You know, and it's like, man, you know, and that's kind of my point here. Is like they shut those servers down, the private servers down, and it was, you know, it's like, okay, are you going to give us something better than what they gave us? Because we have to pay them to play this game, you know? Like we have to pay $15 a month just to have the right to play on their servers. So it's like they're not even doing anything more than those private servers did, and those private servers were free. And I mean, I understand it's not the private servers don't own World of Warcraft. They legally don't really have a leg to stand on, but it at the same time it's like, man, you know, it's like, guys, you're gonna have a whole team dedicated to this game. Like, I mean, do something with it. Like restarting new servers, that in and of itself would be very fun for people. Like jumping on a new server is a lot of the fun of an MMO, you know, is like building up the economy and like taking advantage of the economy when like there's no one on the server, you know, like cornering a market before anybody is there, you know, because you leveled faster than everyone else, you know. It's like those things aren't like they're once a server's mature, you can't do that anymore, you know.
Mhm.
Like, and so there's experiences to be had there that are unique to starting up new servers, and it's like they're not even doing that though. So I don't know. I mean, I'm happy this is coming, and like we said, I may play this just because I want to, but
Well, yeah,
um,
maybe they'll do that in the future. Like maybe if more of the community asks for that, like, hey, can you restart the servers like every year or something like that, or every
Yeah.
year and a half, restart the servers or something like that. Because I mean,
Yeah.
that is a good experience. Like you never get that experience again when you first start the server and everyone's farming for that. And I think that is a
Mm.
really cool experience. Especially like when we did it, like those first couple of days we were playing were fucking cool because we were all just like starting up and everything like that.
Yeah, dude, the auction house was crazy.
Yeah,
Like there was so much shit on there. It was like, it was nuts. Like the low levels were just full of people too. I think that's the other problem with these mature servers is like I've read about this with Classic. Like there's like no one playing at low level anymore,
yeah,
And it's not a surprise, but it's like, I mean, it kind of sucks though. Like if you want to level, like you're kind of shit out of luck. You got to do it by yourself. So, I don't know. I'd love to see more from them. But like you said, maybe after Wrath of the Lich King, has been out for a year or two, and people are like, "Well, what's next for Classic?" And it's like, "Well, we didn't really have much planned. We know you don't like Cataclysm, so we're not releasing that."
yeah.
It's like, well, what else can you do?
Like just restart the servers. Like
Right.
they can announce that. I think and it's kind of hard to say like, oh, we're gonna restart the server because I don't remember how private servers did it. Did they do it every couple of months or did they do it every couple of years?
I think private servers they had it a little bit harder than that. It wasn't so convenient that they could just start over at the drop of a hat. It was a project such that they were just having a server that was functional that had players was an accomplishment for them. So they would like getting a second server up and running was a big deal, and a lot of these places did do that, and that was kind of their thing was like starting a second server. But some of them did have multiple servers that had different experience rates and things like that. So they were even they were a little bit more creative with it than Blizzard's been. So
Yeah, because I do remember something like I think it's called a rolling server where it rolled over every couple of months or every couple of years. Like a year or
well,
something like that.
EverQuest has these where they have these. They've been doing legacy servers for a long time, actually, several years now, and their servers are like they have servers that are stuck at a specific point in the game's lifespan where they don't go past that. But the servers will start at the original game's release point, and then like every few months they'll release the next expansion, and then the next expansion will come a few months after that. So which is again another thing Blizzard could do here, where they could like literally go to Wrath of the Lich King. They could do Classic, that's out for 6 months. Then you do Burning Crusade, that's out for 6 months, and then you do Wrath of the Lich King on that server, and it's like, that's the end point for the server, and like there's a lot of ideas they could come up with that they could do with these, and they haven't done any of them.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, if we hear any announcements, we'll certainly let you guys know. But I don't expect very much, though, personally. Okay. Next thing they showed was a bunch of Diablo stuff. So first thing they showed was Diablo 2 Resurrected, this is official. It's happening. And it appears to be more of a remake than a remaster. More in the vein of like Warcraft 3 Reforged, even though they don't want to say that. Like they were saying it's a remaster. They were calling it that. But the game's got a completely different graphics engine now. What they showed, like the trailers they showed, is like this is a full 3D game now. The sprites are like, so what it seems like is you'll be able to go back to the original game's graphical style if you want, the same way you do with like StarCraft remat or StarCraft HD or whatever they did
Yeah.
with that. But they are remaking the visuals though, and they are in 3D. And the game looks good, man.
No, it
Like
does. It looks really good. I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
yeah, I'm personally excited about it. I mean, because that was one of the biggest turnoffs for me with Diablo 2 is I didn't play it for years. It was probably a decade before I decided to check it out. And by that point, the game's graphical style was heavily outdated by that point. So it was kind of hard to get into.
And that was going to be my biggest turn off. I'm actually glad they did this because everyone was excited about the Diablo remaster, and I'm like, I mean, I am too, but I can't look at those graphics anymore. Diablo
Nah,
2 is
man.
ugly now, and I mean,
Yeah.
it that's hard to say because I remember when it came out, it was nice or whatever, but right now to me it was ugly. I played Diablo 1. I didn't actually play Diablo 2. I played Diablo 1. I used to sneak over my cousin's house. Well, not sneak, but I used to play over my cousin's house. and play it.
Yeah.
And I can only play it over his house because my grandma was like super religious, and obviously the game's called fucking Diablo, so I'm not gonna be able to play it. But I did play Diablo 1. I skipped out on Diablo 2 for some reason. I think I didn't even know about it or whatever. And
Yeah.
and then I played Diablo 3 with my friends. We actually loved Diablo 3, which is ironic because a lot of people hated Diablo 3. And I understood why, but
Hmm.
I love Diablo 3. Um, but yeah, 2 I kind of skipped out on. So I'm actually looking forward to playing this because I wanted to see what the whole rage is about with this game. And I'm actually liking the graphical update to it. Because they did show the classic version, and I'm like, wow, this looks just like Diablo 1, and I am not for that.
Yeah, and Diablo 2 was very different from Diablo 1. It was an extremely like way more expanded game than Diablo 1.
Yeah,
Diablo 1's like really basic at
it
its
is.
like
Yeah.
fundamental level. There's only 3 classes. There's no like
There's no
like
multiplayer,
the
I think, in Diablo 1 or
no,
I played it.
there was multiplayer. But it was like LAN though. It had to be
That's
LAN,
probably
so
why, yeah.
there was no battle net. Yeah, there was no battle net at that point in time. And also the whole game took place in one place, like it was in Tristram. And you went into the church and you went down into the basement of the church, and that basement went down like fucking 100 floors or
Yep,
however
that's
many it
exactly what
was,
I
you know.
remember, yep.
And that was the game. That was the whole game, you know. And Diablo was at the very bottom, and he was the final boss, and that was the game, you know. Whereas Diablo 2 is like a huge, like massive world. You know, you're going from city to city, and there's dungeons and all sorts of stuff, and it's like procedurally generated. You know, like the game is vastly different, and there was also like 6 or 7 classes or whatever. So, and the skill trees were a lot more expanded too. There was a lot more you could do with the character customization in Diablo 2. So it was a vastly different game. Um, for whatever reason in my brain, I kind of prefer the simplicity of Diablo 1. I feel like Diablo 1 is like a really classic video game in terms of what it was at the time it came out, you know? Because, yeah, it's just like, it was kind of I don't know. When you think about, because I think it came out in 1997, dude. Like, think about when that came, when that was, you know? We were playing fucking like, what were we playing? Like, Mario 64 is probably the most like amazing game at that point in time, you know? And it's like, Diablo 1's like this like really complicated action RPG on a computer,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, you know, so it was an amazing game for its time, but obviously now it's like nothing in comparison to what we have now. But so yeah, this remake, I don't like, I don't know. I can't keep, I'm not going to commit to playing this, but like I want to because you know, I love action RPGs. I think it's a great genre. They're super fun, and Diablo 2 is obviously like kind of the king of the genre in terms of people's in terms of its popularity with people. But um yeah, it looks good. Looks good to me. It kind of reminds me a lot more of Grim Dawn the way it looks.
I was just want to say that, but I didn't want
Yeah,
to I didn't want to
yeah,
compare it.
yeah. And I mean, the games are different. Like they're gonna play different. You know, they have different classes or whatever. But that graphical style though lends itself well to to an action RPG. You're not looking for something that looks like, you know, Final Fantasy VII remake. Like you don't need the game to look like that. It really just, the graphics just need to be enough to get the job done for an action RPG, and this is definitely right up that alley. Um, so yeah, that will be coming out this year as well, and it's coming on consoles too. So it's going to be on Switch, PS5, Xbox, PC. So that is also very appealing. Getting it on Switch, it's going to be dangerous, you know, for some people, I'm sure. Um, After that, they did talk about Diablo Immortal. That game's not dead; it's alive. I don't think we briefly mentioned it a few weeks ago. It had resurfaced, but it seems like that's probably coming this year too. They didn't say much about it. They didn't really show much about it, but I would expect some kind of release date in the coming months. I'm sure. But the last thing they mentioned, though, last Diablo news they mentioned was Diablo 4. So we got some more stuff for this game. The main thing they showed though is that one of the new classes is the rogue, which is basically, they talked about, because the rogue hasn't been in Diablo since Diablo 1. It was the dexterity class in Diablo 1.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and you know, it was my class of choice, of course. Um, But this is very exciting for me because that is one of my biggest issues with Diablo 3, is that there was the dexterity classes in Diablo 3 are the monk and the demon
Yeah, I was
hunter.
gonna say I played the
And
Demon Hunter.
yeah, I also played the demon hunter, but it's not what I'm looking for out of a dex class. And the monk is absolutely not what I'm looking for out of a dex class. I like, I want a martial dex class that's like using weapons, so that was always a big disappointment with Diablo 3 for me, is that I just didn't have that kind of character, like because the demon hunter was exclusively a ranged class. It couldn't use melee weapons at all. So this is really exciting for me. It's going to be a hybrid that can use ranged weapons and melee weapons. It's going to be a dex based class. They really did focus on the fact that it's like that D&D archetype. That's really what they're going for. They want it to be something that's heavily customizable and very versatile as a class as well. So it's exciting for me. What about you, man? You a fan of the rogue?
Uh, yeah, I am. I didn't play the rogue class. I played like I think it was the warrior class, the default like warrior class.
I think it was just warrior in Diablo 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I played that, and I went through the whole game with that class. I was like, I don't know, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I thought the game was fucking cool, so I didn't know
Yeah, man,
the
you're just beating on shit with a sword,
yeah. I just
like
thought, and then
whatever.
you get these little power ups and stuff like that, or his abilities and stuff. So I thought that was just pretty cool. Um, and the game was scary at the time. I don't know, it was just really creepy.
Oh, absolutely. Diablo 1. That is one thing about Diablo 1 that is I feel like not talked about, is the atmosphere that game had. It is super terrifying when like the age we were. I was like 7 or 8, Like that game was scary as hell, So but I kind of hope they go for that same type of feel with this game. It seems like that's what they want to do, but we haven't really seen enough of it yet to say for sure. But yeah, I mean that's really all we got. We didn't get any kind of release window news or anything like that, so not much more to say there. But who knows? I'm hoping this game comes next year, but I'm really thinking we're at least 2 years out. What do you think?
Uh, I say 2023. Yeah,
At the
yeah, at the
earliest, yeah.
earliest. So it seems like they're trying to get this game right. So
Yeah, which is fair, understood. But it's like, damn, man, they announced it like 2 years ago, almost a year and a half ago now. It was like 2019. It's like, dang, man. But all right, yeah. So next thing they showed was some Hearthstone stuff, new Hearthstone expansion. Nothing really crazy there. And I think that was pretty much it. There really wasn't much else there. They didn't talk about Overwatch 2 at all in the main opening ceremonies. And everything they announced outside of that was pretty, whatever. It's nothing worth talking about here. Like neither of us really care about it. So I mean, Montreal, I don't blame you for forgetting this happened, because there's not much to be said.
yeah,
Like
uh once they said that they weren't showing these like Overwatch 2 and stuff, and even though I'm not a big Overwatch fan, I still wanted to see what was going on with it and everything like that. Once they said they didn't announce anything or anything else, and I didn't hear about any new games coming from BlizzCon after like the whole thing ended, I was just like, well, there's nothing for me to really go back and watch. I mean, I saw from the chat, our little group chat, that they showed Diablo 2 and they showed Diablo 4, some more gameplay footage of Diablo 4, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I was hoping to see something new from Blizzard, but they really didn't. They did what I thought they would do and just show
they
this.
got nothing. They got nothing, man. They're super predictable. They continue to be super predictable, and I just don't understand. Like, I am kind of mind boggled by, like, again, I'm sitting here. This is like the third time we've talked about BlizzCon on this podcast. I feel like, because yeah, we did it in 2018, we did it in 2019, and we're doing it now. And every time we've talked about BlizzCon, the same thing comes out of us, is like, what is the point of this show? Like, why did we need this conference from them?
Yeah, they might as well just go
Like,
back to E3 and be a part of the PC part of E3.
right. That's kind of where I'm at. Is like, these announcements aren't a big deal. Like, this isn't stuff that, like, I mean, yeah, we just dedicated like 25 minutes to it, but like, we care about Blizzard though. It's like, even
I'll be
so,
honest. At
it's
this
still
time, I don't think I care about them anymore. I think my hype for them has
Mhm.
died in like 2019 when I realized
True.
that they're not going to be
Yeah.
doing anything worth anything. They're not trying to revive any old franchises. They're not trying to bring out any new IPs. I don't know what they're doing as far as like Blizzard, and I've just let them go. I let them go. Like I'm just like this is it. Like I'm almost there with BioWare, which we'll get to later, I guess. But it's like
Yeah, yeah,
Blizzard, I've let go, and I'm okay with it. After I let them go, I'm just like, this is what it is. I'm not even this excited
yeah.
for Diablo because I'm like,
Yeah, me either.
I've been so um disconnected from that community and everything like that for so long. It's just I don't know. They take too long, and see this is crazy because we say give developers as much time as they need to create games and stuff like that, so their games can be great. It's just that they take too long to make their games. Like almost, I think Diablo 3 came out like 10 years after
2012.
12 years,
It was 2012. Yeah,
2012. So, but
it was 12 years after Diablo 2.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's fucking ridiculous. Like why didn't we get that in like 2008 or some shit like that?
And the same thing was true StarCraft 2. It took like 10 years after
And
StarCraft.
it wasn't even that good of a
Um,
game when it came out.
no, it wasn't. And it was 3 games. It was split into 3 games.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I think the
you
last
know,
DLC just came out like 4 or 5 years ago for that game,
yeah.
and it was like
Yeah, and we've got nothing from StarCraft since pretty much,
exactly.
like, in terms of new content. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think I'm not going to criticize them for them taking so long to make their games. It's just the part that I'm going to criticize them on though is that their need to have a BlizzCon, is silly to me because they like force announcements that don't need to be made. Like, just shut up and go away for 4 or 5 years and then come back and bang, you've got like 3 fucking amazing AAA games to announce,
Yeah.
all at the same time and like blow the world away,
Well, that's another
And
thing
it's
too. It
like,
seems like they don't work on multiple projects, and I know Blizzard's huge. So what the fuck is going on over there?
well, they keep hinting though. They keep hinting, and they did it during this presentation too. That they've got mobile games in the works. They supposedly have a new IP in the works that they mentioned briefly, that like something that isn't part of the universes they've made in the past. Like, they've got another game in development for that, and it's like, okay, great. Like, but like, when are we going to hear about that? 2023, 2024, like. And it's like I said, they announced Diablo 4 a year and a half ago, and it was like an apology because of what they had done the previous BlizzCon. But it's like it's been a year and a half, and we don't think the game is going to be out for 2 more years, maybe even 3. So we're looking at like 5 years from when the game was initially revealed to release. 4 or 5 years. That is insane. Like, that's just not a good marketing strategy, in my opinion. I don't know. It makes events like this feel just like empty, because you just don't. You're like scraping up breadcrumbs to like give everybody. And it's like, I mean, yeah, revealing a class like the rogue is exciting. It's cool. Yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited about that. But it's like, did I need that though? Like, did I need to know that? No, not really. It doesn't really do anything for me. It's not making me want to go buy the game when it comes out. I'm not like chomping at the bit. So I don't know. I think, I mean, they're gonna keep doing them. That seems clear. The fact that they ended up doing it digital, when they never wanted to do it digital. The fact that they ended up doing it and it was free for everybody, is telling how much they value this event, for themselves. So I'm sure we're gonna keep getting it. But yeah, I mean, Montreal, you got any other thoughts on that?
Nah, I just think it's time for them to hang it up. I think they need, and I think they need to start. If they are going to have the same IP, they need to start doing other shit with those IPs. I think they need to start doing what Riot's doing. Riot knows that League of Legends is their biggest IP, and they're doing other shit with it. They don't have to make up different IPs. They can make up little IPs within those IPs. I mean, we getting a RPG game from them. They're also working on like a action RPG for Diablo, a fighting game, or not Diablo but for League of Legends and stuff like that. And they can do that within the realms of what they have. They don't have to make brand new IPs. They can just make an action game out of one of the characters in fucking Overwatch, or they can make a first person shooter in fucking StarCraft, or they can make an hack and slash out of Warcraft or something like that, like an action hack and slash game or something of that nature from Warcraft. They don't have to do the same games within the same. They don't have to do the same genre of games within those same IPs. They can do different genres, and it will still be something fresh. I just think they're not thinking hard enough, or maybe they are, which is like my criticisms of like BioWare too. Maybe there's younger talent that wants to do stuff, but they just don't want to do it because there are older people in the way, and that's crazy because I'm in my 30s now, and it's like, yeah, I've recognized that we need to let younger people take the realm, and I think Blizzard needs to do the same thing and just let stuff fester, or not fester, but like let stuff grow. And I don't think they're willing to take that chance anymore, and it's kind of weird that they're not trying to do that. So I don't know. I'm done with Blizzard. I'm done with BlizzCon.
Fair enough, man. I mean, we've talked about them enough, like plenty of times. We're gonna keep talking about them, but like, yeah, I just don't have any passion for them anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like I don't know. Like, I know we're talking about playing World of Warcraft, and even as much as like that does sound fun, I'm sure it's gonna come, and I'm just gonna be like, whatever. You know, some other game will take my attention. So they're not a must-play developer anymore. You know, the way they used to be.
Yeah, and that's sad. Like for me, let that go. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, dude, because like I think about their games, right? Like Warcraft 3 was like a must-play game for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And up until Diablo 3, their games were still in my brain must-plays. And like StarCraft 2, I bought that game. I didn't really like it that much, but I bought it and played it and beat it. And then Diablo 3, I put a lot of time into that game. And you know, unfortunately, the game wasn't very good when it initially came out. And it, you know, it's just we're at the point now where it's like I even got Overwatch when it came out and played that, and just the game fell off for me really quick. Like a couple weeks, I wasn't like that into it anymore. You know,
Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where it's like I'm not playing every one of their games. You know, I don't care anymore. So it's sad, but all right, let's move on. We've got more news to get through. Next story. This is from PlayStation Blog. Sony announced the next generation of VR on PlayStation. So there's not much to say here other than the fact that they basically confirmed there's going to be a new VR system. It's going to have a new controller exclusive to it, and they're going to only have one cord coming out of it going into the PlayStation 5. So those are the major pieces of it. It won't be launching this year either in 2021, more than likely next year in 2022. But they did say developers are already getting it in their hands and are making experiences for it. So, I mean, Montreal, I know how you feel about this, but you know, this is moving the needle for you. You're gonna get a VR.
So I don't know. I really like. I've been watching this weird thing called VR chat on like YouTube and stuff like that. And so YouTube, like the algorithm recommended to me, and this is one guy who he's not like a therapist or anything like that, but he talks to like random people or like, and people like actually open up to him, or because they know that they're going to be on YouTube or whatever, so they'll tell their stories or whatever, and it's actually like really therapeutic in a way, like almost like a therapy session type deal. He just lets them talk, and they talk about everything, and sometimes they cry. Like one dude talked about how he was with a girl since he was like 13 or whatever, and they were going to they got married and everything. Like I think he's like our age, and yeah, she like died last year, and how he was dealing with that, and the depression he was dealing with that. But he was an avatar. Have you ever heard of Cool Spot? The little 7-Up thing.
Yeah.
He was the Cool Spot avatar. So it was just like, it was funny because it was a Cool Spot avatar talking to me, but the guy behind it was like, so it took away that it had that that anonymity to it, because I didn't know who this guy was. He was able to open up because nobody knows who he is, because besides his Cool Spot avatar. And I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So if PlayStation VR can kind of like incorporate themselves into the PC world as well, where I can play PC games with PlayStation VR, I will be all for this game, because I think like the VR chat shit, I think that's worth the VR set. Like that's the only game or only thing freeware I've seen that to me is like really worth the VR shit. Um,
Yeah.
just to be able to talk to people like that, or anyway, just have fun in that shit. Because I see crazy shit like that's where the Ugandan Knuckles meme came from, and all the other shit like that. So I think that's pretty cool. And then the VR games they have shown for the PlayStation have been actually pretty decent so far. My only gripe is like I think a lot of the headsets now, like the Oculus Rift and the HTC one, I think is a more popular one too. Those are wireless
Yeah.
now, I think.
Yes, they are.
And I
Yep.
think PlayStation VR, the next one needs to be wireless. Like they need to get rid of
Yeah, that's
the
the problem. That they need to figure that out. I really hope they fix that before this thing comes out, because they're already going to be behind the eight ball because of that.
yeah. But I think it has potential. It just needs to be cross compatible. I think the next one should definitely be cross compatible because it will be a really easy market for people to get into it, and they can start out with the PlayStation VR 2 or whatever it's going to be called next, and then they can upgrade to other stuff. But just having that as the bar to entry, in my opinion, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
will buy your product because you're the bar to entry to get into other stuff. So, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes any sense. So hopefully they take
Yeah.
it that direction. They don't really make it um proprietary to just PlayStation. They make it open ended as far as like where I can do cross compatible stuff with my PC and stuff like that. Because I mean,
Well, yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. 'Cause I
Keep
mean,
going.
like their controllers is an example of that. Like how there are
Mm-hmm.
already drivers on the
Mm-hmm.
on Windows for the DualSense, and I think
Yes.
that was a really good step in the right
Which it took years for the DualShock 4 to get drivers
exactly.
on Windows.
To be honest, those are not official drivers. So
I think there are actually official drivers
okay,
now.
okay,
It just it took a long time. I think it was only like 2 or 3 years ago that they actually finally came out.
okay.
But yeah, it was dude, I remember using some guy somewhere made a fucking driver for the DualShock 4. And I think you know what I'm talking about
Yeah,
because you're laughing right now. Like I don't remember what it was called, but it was this wonky ass piece of software that like had like a visual representation of your controller and like show you the button prompts or everything when you used it. It was like it was super clunky and weird, and it worked. It worked, dude. To the guy's credit, it worked. It actually worked really well, but it was just funny as hell that we had to resort to that. Like it's like, come on, like why did it take them so long to even like want to approach the PC market like that? So I mean, I'm with you. I think that like it feels like a no brainer. Like they really should make it something that works with PC. And I get the idea that like, oh, but it's exclusive to PlayStation, and it's like, yeah, they can still have that though. Like they can have the element of it where it's like it works best on PS5, but you can use it with your PC,
yeah,
and you can play certain games on PC. Because at this point, to me, it feels silly to buy the PSVR when you can just like the Oculus Quest is like what $200 or $250,
I didn't
and
know
it's
that. I didn't know it
wireless.
was that affordable now. That's crazy.
Dude, it's super affordable now, and like they're wireless. Like you don't even need wires. Like it's super clean. Like and there's and you have a larger library of games available to you on that compared to something like PSVR. So I don't know. It's at this point, I don't know, because yeah, in terms of the computer needs, they're not even nearly as much as they used to be either. Because some of these units do some of the heavy lifting in terms of processing and stuff too. So VR has actually come a long way in the last few years since it was, since it came out initially, and it's only been like 5 years, man. You know, so I don't know. I think Sony's got to do a little bit more than they're used to in this kind of space because they're not just competing with Microsoft. Like they're competing with companies that are dedicated to this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, like Oculus is a company made to make VR stuff. That's what they do. And obviously they're part of Facebook now, but they still exist to do that. So I don't know. They need to innovate a little bit. Is kind of what I'm saying. So on that front, though, I will say I think this is possible. Like what you said is possible because our next story, and this is originally from GQ. Sony's CEO Jim Ryan did an interview about their plans for PC. So they said that more PlayStation first party games are coming to PC, and Days Gone will be coming to PC this spring. So before we get into that part of it, just to finish the last point, I think the fact that they're doing this and they really are like, it seems like actually maybe trying to embrace PC a little bit. Like there's a possibility that PSVR 2 could be PC compatible. So
Okay.
that'd be exciting. But on to this next story though. Okay, Montrell. Days Gone on PC, and then other exclusives to come in the future. First of all, you excited about Days Gone on PC, or do you still not care?
I still don't care. I heard the game was good, so
Yeah,
I'm actually going to play on the PS5 because I think it got the update, one of the little upgrades or whatever.
I think it did.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to play it on PS5 because I think I have actually I think I have the game. Like I think somebody bought the game for me by
Oh
mistake.
yeah.
So I think I have it already. I'm just going to play
Nice.
it, but I am excited for it to be on PC because I know some crazy mods are going to come for it. It's going to be on YouTube in a couple of months, so I'm excited for
Mm-hmm.
that. But I'm also excited because they are putting more games on PC, and I think they're starting off with their like low level exclusives. Even though, like when I say low level, no people are gonna get like really offended
Yeah,
by
come on,
that.
man. Hold on. Horizon's not low
Yeah,
level.
it is.
It's a
Anyway,
valuable IP to them,
it is.
but
It's low level to me.
I get what you're
Yeah, you
saying
know,
though. Like Days Gone though is like literally it's like to me in terms of like if you take it out of their lineup of exclusives, like
you won't be missing anything, in my opinion.
yeah, right,
And I
exactly.
feel like
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn, we talked about it off mic. I think it's their
Mm-hmm.
weakest, like one of their weakest, like mainline first party games. It's a really good game, but it is their weakest one. Like if you had to put up against like God of War and
Yeah, from like 2015
yeah,
on, I'd say basically from when Bloodborne came out to now, it's one of the weaker exclusives that they've
yeah,
released.
and that's why I wasn't really. I think that's why they actually recognize that, and that's why they decided to port it over to PC. Now, I think we're probably not gonna get God of War for another 2 years on PC. To be honest with you, we may
Yeah,
get it next
yeah,
year, but they're not putting
yeah,
that
yeah.
over for a while. Maybe until God of War 2 comes out. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they should honestly they should port fucking Bloodborne. That's a
I
good
mean, there's plenty of exclusives too. There's Uncharted, there's Last of
yeah.
Us, you got Ghost of Tsushima. There's tons of games they could do this with. So I guess that's my question to you though. What do you think is actually going to be next? I mean, I know God of War is top of mind, but is that realistic though?
I don't
Like, do
think
we
that's
really think
realistic
that's
at
going
this
to be
point.
coming next?
I
Like,
think
yeah,
the upgrade has definitely significantly slow that process down because a lot of people are buying God of War now on the PS5. They're
yeah,
buying PS5s for God of War, which is funny.
yep.
Uh, because that game looks like a fucking brand new game on, on the PS5.
On
It's
PlayStation
crazy,
5,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Bloodborne's next. A lot of people have been asking for it.
God, we've been talking about that for
Yeah,
years though,
a lot
man,
of
and it's
people have been
just
asking
like
for it, but the only reason I think that game's not going to do it is because it took fucking forever for Dark Souls to be on PC, like fucking forever. So
yeah.
even when it did come on PC, it was fucking terrible. Like I remember when it finally came to Steam, like maybe a year or two after the original Dark Souls, everyone was like, "What the fuck? This shit's fucking terrible." Like it was locked at 30 frames and everything was crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I would like Bloodborne, but in a sense, From Software is like really bad with their PC ports. So if they are going to do a port, have someone else do it. Um, but maybe I wouldn't hold my breath for Ghost of Tsushima. That's too new of an IP. But maybe the first Last of Us, I can see that.
Oh yeah, the first
Yeah, I
one.
can see
Yeah,
that
that's
being on.
actually not a bad call.
Yeah, I can see that
Or
being.
maybe the first 3 Uncharted games.
Yeah, that's actually a good, really good call. The first three Uncharted
Yeah,
games.
all 3 together, just put the collection
Yeah,
together and throw it up there. Yeah,
exactly.
that's not a bad one. There's a 0% chance you're getting Spider-Man though, PC audience. Like you are never getting that game. Just trust me on that. It's never going to happen.
Yeah,
There's too much red tape there for that game to ever like move platforms, I feel like. But if you do get it, it's going to be the last one you get,
yeah, that's gonna be
It's
like
going to be
10 years down the
very
line.
yeah, so don't expect that. Yeah, I think for me, I would wager. I think something from Naughty Dog feels like a good call. Um, Last of Us actually feels like a good one. Even though that's last generation, it's still. I mean, it's basically a next gen game. At this point with the upgrades they did on PS4 and what they could do on PC now too. I think Bloodborne feels like an obvious one that they should do. If they have somebody do it, maybe Blue Point can do it for them. I don't know. Or in terms of stuff recently, it's kind of a hard question to answer because it's definitely not Spider-Man. God of War feels too important for them to do. I know that sounds silly, like a silly argument, but it's like they're like Montreal said, they're like Days Gone's not an important IP for them right now. God of War is extremely important to them, and Ghost of Tsushima did so well. It feels like, and like you said too, it's too recent. It would be too soon. Like I just that feels unlikely. So I don't know. Yeah, I feel like something from Naughty Dog or Bloodborne would make sense. But then again, like Days Gone only came out 2 years ago. So, and here we are. It's coming to PC. So, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, it's exciting they're doing this though. I'm happy they're like actually really considering this. I think the thing they need to not do though, which they did with Horizon and Square is doing with Kingdom Hearts, is like don't charge $60 for some of these games. It's like, Days Gone probably costs like $15 on fucking Amazon right now. It's like, and you can get it for free on PlayStation Plus collection, I think, right now on PS5. So like, make it like $40. Like don't try to fucking gouge people for a game they can get on another platform, on your other platform, for basically free. Like, it's like, I don't know why they try to do this to the PC audience, but we'll see. I don't know. It'll probably be 60, but who am I kidding? But so yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing. I hope we hear more on this sooner than later, like by the summer. I'm hoping the next game is like announced by then, because I don't want this to be a thing where we get like one per year. It's like we get less of them move to PC than they release as exclusives, on PS5. It's like what's the point of that, so I kind of hope they're working on more of these. But okay, let's move on. Next story is Bungie. We got some Bungie news, man. So Bungie has announced that they are expanding heavily. So they are supposedly, what they've said here is that they're basically going to be doubling the size of their headquarters. They called it a quote extensive expansion to their headquarters in Bellevue. And they are opening an international office in Amsterdam, which is going to be mainly a marketing arm for them, they said. And then they're also adding more people to their board of directors. And there's two other things they mentioned here that are very interesting. They potentially might want to get into publishing. And two, that they are, actually three things, I guess. Two, that they're planning to expand Destiny into additional media. That's in quotes. And then they're also working on a non-Destiny IP that they want to release within the next 4 years. So that's a lot of stuff to parse through. But Bungie's making moves, man. I mean, what do you think about this? Does this excite you? Does the idea of Destiny being a television show or a movie or having different types of games, maybe in different genres, is that intriguing to you?
So I don't. That's Bungie. Yeah. Well, they said non-Destiny stuff though, so I don't know. I mean, is Destiny going to expand into other media? Like that's what they're saying, like movies.
That's what they said.
Okay.
They said that, and they have a non-Destiny IP that they want to release, like a game coming out.
Okay.
As well.
I've actually been asking for something like that. I think Destiny has a lot of lore, and they can potentially make a TV show out of all the lore that's not shown in the video game. I actually probably wanted a side game, but I'll take fucking a movie or fucking a TV series or something like that. I think Destiny has the fucking capabilities to do that, and I actually would like that. I think that's pretty cool, as long as they get someone to do it right. Because I know Bungie has a lot of history of burning their bridges, especially with Activision. They burned a lot of bridges with that whole little thing.
Well, Microsoft,
yeah,
too, back in the day.
So I mean, it looks like they rekindled that relationship with Microsoft lately. So
yeah,
I think they can do it. Yeah, I think they can do like a Mandalorian type show with Destiny. Like they can just focus on one person, especially like Cade 6. I think he was like the most interesting character. out of all of them, and they can get that actor to
Mhm.
do, or somebody like that to have that has the charisma to do a Cade 6 like prequel, I will watch that because I love that. I think that's one of their best characters that they killed off of the. Well, spoiler alert for people who haven't played Destiny in like 5 years.
I mean, it's been like 3 years
Yeah,
since that happened. So,
yeah. So
also it's a live service game. Like,
yeah. So
yeah.
I think that would be cool, like to do something like that. Or if they just want to have like a random person or whatever, random guardian or some shit, or have a TV show.
Maybe show what led up to Destiny. Like,
Yeah,
like why is the world in the state it's in?
exactly. Or
Like the pre-traveler,
I think it
stuff.
would be cool to show like you doing side mission, or like have a team that's doing like side missions, right? That are integral to the main story. But you may see guardians, like obviously not your guardian, but the person that's supposed to be the player's guardian doing the main stuff, like in the background or something like that, like
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah.
Crota or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like they're fighting Crota.
And you're on the side, like trying to like fucking make sure a bomb doesn't go
Yeah, or
off or something.
something
And
crazy
like
like that, or maybe you're like
yeah,
fighting one of his sisters or some shit like that. Like, we got to
yeah,
do this so the main Guardian Squad or the other Guardian Squad can do it or whatever. And then you can probably make jokes like, "Yeah, that's like fucking Zavala's little baby over there. Fuck him," or whatever, something like that, something
yeah.
stupid like that. I think
Uh-huh.
that would be really cool to do. Um, because they did that with like the Halo. I mean, even though they're not Halo, they didn't do that. They did that with like Halo, where they had side squads doing stuff that was integral to the main plot of Halo, where Master Chief was like probably in the ship or something, and they'll talk about him like, "Oh yeah, I heard that's the Spartan guy" or whatever like that. And I think that shit's pretty fucking cool or something and stuff like that. So they can
Yeah,
do,
I mean they've proven it with
yeah,
Halo in the past, so they can do this for sure. And other media could be like books, which they did with Halo,
yeah,
or they were always exploring the idea of a Halo television show, and then eventually, it happened way after they let the IP go. But it's like this is always they have the potential to do this well, I think,
yeah.
and
It can answer a lot of
I'm more
like lore
excited.
questions that people have that don't want to dive
Mhm.
into the YouTube shit, and it's a fucking
Yes,
crazy person like me who dives into the wiki and all that shit like that. When I was really into Destiny, um,
yeah, yeah,
at one point. So I mean, because there's a lot of shit. They actually have what was going on before, Destiny 1, how the world ended up the way it has. They have lore for all that. It's just they don't expand upon it in
okay,
the games. You know what I'm saying? You already see what happens, and then in the games they're always talking about other Guardian squads doing this and doing that, protecting the gate and all those stuff like that. I want to see, especially like Destiny 2. Um, you're always in the tower, and the tower's way above the city. I want to see what the fuck is going on in the city. Like,
yeah. What's life like down
yeah,
there?
like there has to be like
And yeah, what are the other guardians doing too? Like the
exactly,
lesser guardians, ones that aren't like you fighting Crota,
yeah,
like you said. Yeah,
exactly. So
it's
I think
like yeah,
that would be cool. Like, what's the like almost like the Mandalorian, right? Like, let's see what maybe there's like a bounty hunter type guardian, or just a regular guardian, like you said. Like he has the power, or she has the powers to do all this stuff, but she's just not important as the main player guardian. So you may run into Zavala every once in a while, but he's like a celebrity, so you don't see him that much because he's so far up the guardian chain or whatever the case may be. But
right.
you're in the city protecting the city and doing random shit, and you may see the fallen here and there and all this shit like that. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot of stuff they can do. They just need to do it, and they can expand upon it. And Destiny can become the next Halo. Like it can have that. It always had that potential to be the like as groundbreaking as Halo was. Like everyone loved Halo, but not just for the video games, but like when you played Halo, a lot of people dove into the lore. Like a lot of people were like, even people who you would think are not lore heavy, like meatheads. I don't like to call them that, but like meatheads and stuff like that were into like the Halo
Yeah.
lore. And I feel like Destiny,
Well, somebody like me, dude, like I'm a casual Halo person, but I think Halo's fucking cool as hell. Like I
yeah,
think the lore in Halo is like really interesting. I love the Covenant, and I love the concept of the Halo rings and like all that stuff. Like everything around that is really intriguing to me. They made a really interesting universe, and Destiny's not that dissimilar. I don't think it's as cool as Halo,
yeah, it's
but
not.
it's cool. It's cool in its own ways, though.
It is, and I think the reason why it's not as cool is because that's not your fault, and that's not the fault of the average person is because they literally took all that shit out and was like, here it
True,
is.
true.
Like,
Part of it's on them.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think this is a chance to kind of rekindle that spark and maybe do like a Destiny, not 3, but like revamped or some shit like that, where they just kind of start everything over from scratch.
Well, they did mention that they're increasing the team size of the Destiny team. You know, to increase the commitment of the long term development of Destiny 2. So it sounds like Destiny 2 is going to continue into the you know into the long term for them. They still have plans
Yeah, I
for it.
think they're
So
turning Destiny 2 into Destiny 1, if that makes any sense. Because they're
yeah.
revamping and they're putting a lot of the raids and old worlds from Destiny 1 into Destiny 2. So it's like, because I know from what I remember, that last update they had, I can't remember the name of it, but that was supposed to be like, this is like, we're revamping everything and you don't have to play the other games. Because they even have the Traveler. I don't know if you remember Traveler from Destiny 1. Not the Traveler, but the Stranger from Destiny 1.
Yeah.
She's in there now. She's a
Yeah.
main part of the story. Like her storyline is what should have been in Destiny 1. Because I played it. I'm
Hmm.
like, this should have been in Destiny 1. Like, why wasn't this in
Yeah.
Destiny 1? So like the way they're doing it,
Yeah.
and like she time travels. So it's like they have an opportunity to like reset everything because what you've done can potentially change her timeline and change your timeline too, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
So I think that's what they're trying to go for. And it makes sense to turn Destiny 2 just into the base Destiny, if that makes any sense. So hopefully they go for it.
Well, yeah, I don't know why I was thinking about Destiny earlier today, but I was thinking about the original launch state of Destiny 1. And I just, dude, it's just wild how far the series has come, in the what, 6.5 years since Destiny 1 came out. Because, dude, you remember Dinklebot?
Yeah.
That's what Destiny was for a long time. And we're well beyond that at this point, but it's just funny to think about where it started, how misguided it was, like, as a franchise, and like,
It's so
and
crazy. And then it's like, not only how they did it again though. Like you remember when Halo came out, everyone wanted to be Halo. And we saw that without like various video games. They always wanted to be Halo. They always trying to be the Halo killer and everything of that nature.
yeah.
And Destiny did the same shit. Like Destiny, Bungie does their thing where they come out with a concept or a game and it's just so good. Even though Destiny was bad, it was still good though. Like it was,
It's better than everything
yeah, it was
else.
hard to explain. Like if you tell somebody like how was Destiny bad and good, it was just hard to explain because everything was they had the right pieces. They just didn't put the pieces together correctly until
Right. It
years.
was great to
Yeah,
play. It felt good. It just, unfortunately, it didn't have enough there to keep you sticking around. And we're at the point now where that's not true
yeah.
anymore. Like, the game has plenty to it, and the game feels great to play, and it's better than all its competition. The genre that it's in, the live service,
They
like,
own
loot
that genre.
shooter, they own the genre. There's no one even remotely close. The Division is the closest series to Destiny 2, and it's not even like remotely in the same ballpark, in my opinion, in terms of popularity and just cultural relevance in video games. Like, no one talks about the Division.
No,
Like,
you're right.
everyone's constantly talking about
Yep.
Destiny. And Bungie's always in the news, and people are very interested to see what Bungie's doing, like, all the time. So I mean, as much as they started off on the wrong foot, dude, Destiny's one of the weirdest journeys of a game, and it happened so quickly too. Because I remember when Destiny 2 came out, and it was much the same issues with Destiny 1. It was just like they simplified the game, they fixed some of the issues from Destiny 1, but then they created new issues that made the game not fun.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point, though, years on, that it doesn't matter now. Like, the game is completely different from its launch state. It's a totally different game. And like, to Bungie's credit, they deserve the success they've had, even though I haven't played Destiny a while, but I've seen a lot of gameplay and a lot of what the content they've added and things over the years. Like they've worked to get here. This isn't a fluke. Like, we're gonna talk about Anthem in a second. Like that's a failure that is gonna remain a failure. And then you've got like Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, from Crystal Dynamics. That is a failure that continues to bumble and fumble, and it feels like a game that we're gonna hear about in 6 months. They're just canceling development, on it. And here we go though, Destiny. It's the only one left in the ring. Like there's no one really left standing. Like everyone else around them is like, the division's like on the bench, and everyone else is completely out of the boxing arena, like there's not even anyone close. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Bungie can do with additional funding, because this is actually kind of a follow-up to a story we talked about a few months ago when they got a cash infusion from Tencent. That's what they're doing with this, or with that, this is what they're doing with that. So clearly they wanted to expand, and Tencent was there to enable their expansion, and we'll see what they do with it. I'm very interested to see what this next game is. Is it going to be a single player game, or is it going to be another live service game? I would assume live service. It's going to be difficult for them to maintain this level of size with a single player game, but it depends though. If they release something that's just like, dope, who knows? They could sell tens of millions of copies of something. So that's the cachet they have in the industry. So we'll see. It's exciting. It'll be it's good. It's good to see. I'm glad Bungie's remaining independent. I really don't want to see them get gobbled up by anybody. I think it's good to have developers like them that are large and independent and able to do their own thing. So. Okay, let's move on. As I said about Anthem, that is our next story. So this is a follow-up to a couple weeks ago when we were talking about EA was deciding the fate of Anthem. It has been announced, and this is from The Verge, that, well, actually, BioWare put this on their blog, so that's where this is coming from. It's done. Anthem is done. They're not going to continue with the redesign of it, and the game will just exist as it does now for however long that is. I would imagine not very long, probably a couple years at most, and eventually this game will die and just be forgotten to time. But Montreal, I know we a couple weeks ago were telling them to kill it, and as much as like I agree with that, it still does make me sad to hear this news. At the end of the day, where are you at with this?
Yeah, I'm weirdly sad about it too. Even though I wanted them to kill the game. A lot of people were upset and they were like blaming EA and stuff like that. And I actually commented on one of the posts in there, and a lot of people didn't know that this was kind of BioWare's fault. Like 90% of this was
Mm-hmm.
BioWare's fault. I put the article in there, and a lot of people were like DMing me and stuff like, "Thank you, I didn't know that," and all this stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I was just surprised how little knowledge was out there, because a lot of people were coming at EA about it. It really makes you think sometimes. Um, Doing this podcast, like a lot of people aren't really paying attention like we are, because we're doing a podcast, but I feel like even before the podcast, we were paying a lot of attention to a lot of shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my biggest takeaway from it. It's not actually the them closing, is like the fallout and people's reactions to it, because a lot of people actually didn't know what the fuck was going on. They knew about Anthem being Anthem Next or whatever, but they didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that there were only 30 people working on it, because a lot of people were like, oh man, I feel so bad for the team. I'm like, bro, it was only like 30 people working on it.
Right. And it was 30 people who didn't work on the original version of the game. So
Exactly.
it's not that much to feel bad about.
Yeah. So it's like,
you know,
I'm like, those 30
they
people.
probably didn't even want to be working on this.
Exactly.
Like,
And a lot of people didn't know that either. I'm like, a lot of people, a lot of the younger talent and like low level mid tier talent didn't even want to work on this game in the first place, because it was the same old BioWare shit. And a lot of them, that's what they said in the article, was like the same old BioWare stuff. Like, we're tired of that. And I feel it. Like, just, I feel like with these newer games, we're going to get some newer stuff.
mm-hmm.
Not to like take away from the Anthem thing, but like the Dragon Age, they show some more like sketches and like worlds that they're coming up with, and they have like some kind of cyberpunk world in Dragon Age. I think that's fucking cool, like using the magic as like electricity and stuff like that, and creating this cyberpunk theme inside of a medieval world. Like, Never
Mhm.
really seen that before. Probably only place I've seen that happen is like League of Legends, or they have their magic is called Hex Tech, and they have
Mhm.
some kind of like cyberpunk world or town within that world that's obviously medieval, but a lot of the characters use like things that are obviously like electricity and stuff like that, or futuristic, but they just call it
Mhm.
hex tech because it's like enhanced magic or some shit like that. So I think that's really cool that they're doing that, and that's probably because of younger talent who's like, hey, let's try to do some newer shit, because you don't see that in older medieval themes. At least the stuff that I've been exposed to. I mean, you read a lot more fantasy stuff than me, so I mean, maybe that's not a brand new thing, but
Within the novel realm, there that stuff definitely exists.
okay,
Within video games, it's like
yeah,
non-existent though.
yeah,
Like you're totally right. So I'm not against that at all. I like, dude. I mean, we've talked privately about fantasy within video games. Like, it needs a shot in the arm.
yeah,
You know, it definitely needs some new life breathed into it, because the same old shit is becoming derivative to a point where it's boring. You know. Because ultimately Dragon Age 1 is like literally just Lord of the Rings, like, you
it
know,
is.
pound for pound. It is, dude. It
And I
just
didn't
is. It's
real.
not a bad
It's not.
story,
I didn't realize
but
that until I watched. You remember I told you I watched all three of them off mic. I watched
yeah,
all three of
yeah,
them. Like, this is
yeah.
fucking Dragon Age. And she was like, "What?
Yeah,
What are you
man.
talking
No,
about?"
yeah,
And I'm
no.
like,
Dragon Age is it's like it's just taken straight out of it. It's like I said, it's not bad,
It's
but
not. It's
you
not a
know,
bad story, but like you said, it's
but
rehashed.
it is rehashed. And how many times has Lord of the Rings been rehashed over the years? It's like, you know, um so yeah, I mean, for Anthem though, for me, I'm bummed about it, but at the end of the day, I can't say I'm surprised. The idea that they've spent 2 years since this game came out, you know, I mean, this game came in 2019. To think it's been 2 years already is kind of insane to me, but that's where we are. So it's like the fact that in 2 years they don't really have anything to show for that 2 years of work, you know? And I don't think we talked about this last time, but the leader of this team left BioWare 2 months ago
Yeah.
in
Yep.
December. So I mean, that should have been the writing on the wall that this was done at that point, because this might have been his, like, he might have been like, hey, I'm volunteering for this, I want to make this right, you know, and he was given a group of people to work on it, and eventually it didn't go anywhere, and he just gave it up and left, you know, and that was the end of it, and no one was there to pick up the flag, you know,
Yeah,
probably. And
and also that that other guy who was working on this project too, he died unexpectedly.
yes,
I think
yes.
he would have been a very big help to, because he was a lead gameplay designer, I believe, right? Yeah, he would
Hmm.
have been a
That's
big
right.
help to, like, shape and mold where this is going. And I think he died during the development of the first tier of Anthem, the first round of Anthem. Um, so no doubt that that probably played a huge part of it. So I mean, the game was kind of doomed from the start. One thing I hope
Hmm.
that comes from this though is maybe 2 or 3 years later down the line, once Dragon Age came out, and hopefully that game's really good, and Mass Effect come out, and hopefully that game's really good, because I'm hoping these games are really good. Um, and they do have critical success, and obviously financial success as well. We do get like an Anthem next. They could try to revisit it, or maybe they just take something, they make a class in Mass Effect where it has that Anthem style class incorporated inside of it. You know what I'm saying? Because that gameplay
Mm.
is, for me, if I was an EA executive or some high level Bioware person and I saw the gameplay, that gameplay is just too much to just scrap. It's too good to just scrap. It is.
Yeah.
They need to
Yeah.
do something with that, and hopefully we can like
Yeah, I think Mass Effect is an obvious place to
yeah
put it, you know. You know, the do you like power suits or whatever? So yeah, it's I mean, it's interesting to me. Like, I look at Anthem, I think about it in my head, and I'm sure a lot of people think of it this way, is that this game is like a colossal fucking failure, you know? It's one of the biggest failures in video game history. And it's funny to say that though, but in reality, this game made its money back, I
it did
think.
it did
Like
it actually did, yeah.
and it sold a shit ton of copies when it came out. Like 2 years ago, I think it was on the top 10 for the year for sales, for the entire year of all video games, you know, and that's nuts, dude. That this game sold that much. So it is a colossal failure. There's no way around that. But from EA's perspective, like cutting it and running is not really. I'm surprised they even went this far with it because, dude, to think about the time frame after the game came out, right? Like, do you remember like how shitty the update schedule was for the game? Like nothing came out for it. Like there was like 2 content patches and they weren't even really content patches. Like there was one event that they did in like July of that year and that was the end of updates to the game. Like there was no more content updates after that. Because you remember the roadmap they released or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they pushed the roadmap back. Like the roadmap, they couldn't even meet the roadmap, the roadmap's roadmap. It was like it just was like, yeah, it was a disaster. The whole thing was a disaster, and it sucks. Like you said, the game has a good core to it. Like the gameplay was fun, but ultimately, it's like how much more time are you going to waste on something when you were already half-assing it? Like they weren't really trying. 30 people is nothing in AAA video game development. That is nothing. That is not a lot of people at all. You cannot make a game with 30 people of this style and of this like scope, and you most certainly cannot re-release a game of this scope with 30 people. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think BioWare was ever really dedicated to like re-releasing this game, and I think they probably just said that to EA a couple weeks ago when they met, and they're just like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? We don't even want to do this anymore. Like it's like, yes, the game, we spent a shitload of time on this game, basically 9 years at this point, not where we are now. It's like, yeah, 9 years in the game, but it's like,
I think they should
at a
revisit
certain
it.
point, just stop throwing good money after bad.
Yeah.
It's
I think
like,
they should revisit it after they made their. I mean, they already made their money back, but I think it's not worth scrapping. I think it's worth putting it in the vault, keeping all the files and everything like that, and just making a new game out of it. Make an Anthem that we actually wanted to make. Make the Beyond game that was called. Just
yeah, the survival game that they originally pitched. Make that
yeah.
game,
So
because that game sounded dope.
and it sounded like with the new consoles, it sounded like we can actually handle what they wanted, making a fucking dynamic world. And with the older consoles, we couldn't do that shit. So,
which is why we got what we got ultimately. And it's just a damn shame that by the time Dragon Age and Mass Effect come out, we'll have had a 10-year period where BioWare basically released only Anthem, and well, I guess Mass Effect Andromeda too, but it was like a 10-year period of just 2 failures, and that's it. Like a whole decade, dude, a decade, of time where like it's just bad games, and it was only 2 of them, and obviously Dragon Age Inquisition's in there too, but it's like even that game had its issues.
That was pure luck that game turned out the way it was, and it was one of the first one of the first gens on the last gen game. So it was the first gen game, so a lot of people weren't expecting much, and then it came out in a year that nothing came out. Pretty much, it didn't really had too much competition. I can't remember what else came out in 2014.
Nothing really.
It was the luck of the draw. So one person did say something interesting, what I thought was interesting too, and it seems like they're putting a lot more backing behind Dragon Age than Mass Effect, which is just so weird to me. And I understand, because Dragon Age was like if you think chronologically, right, out of their games that had success, Dragon Age was the one that had success, so it'll make sense for you to put your money behind that. But then if you think in the last 15, 20 years, Mass Effect was like the biggest IP at one point. It was like, I don't want to say it was up there with Halo, but it was damn near just...
I mean, it kind of was. The hype machine for Mass Effect was... I mean, if they forget that at this point, they're stupid. Like, I think them putting their effort behind Dragon Age is just an urgency thing. I think it's just a time frame thing, because Dragon Age has been in development for years now, like at least 2, maybe even 3. And this Mass Effect, I have a feeling is at best like been in pre-production for a year. So it's like that's not their primary game right now. It's not the closest game to release. So I think that's why Dragon Age is going to get the urgency. So yeah, I think Dragon Age, we could see it come out probably by 2023, maybe 2024, and Mass Effect maybe a couple years after that. Hopefully, that would be my hope. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But Bioware's in an interesting spot. I mean, you were talking earlier about, kind of letting them go the way we've let Blizzard go. Are you still there after
No,
this
no, I'm not.
conversation?
I'm
Or
not there. I mean, like I said, I'm giving them a chance with Dragon Age and Mass Effect.
they got one more
Yeah,
chance, I
if
think.
these games
Yeah.
do not pan out to be good or just decent, like I'm taking, when I say decent, I at least want like a 6 out of 10, and that's not hard to get from me.
I mean, I'd argue that fucking Mass Effect Andromeda probably was a 6,
And I
of the
enjoyed
little I
that
played
game,
of it,
but the writing was just
So I think it needs to be better than that, is kind of what I'm getting
okay.
at,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Like
least a
I
second.
think 7 or
Yeah,
8,
because
you
I
know.
give Inquisition a 7.5. And I
Okay.
thoroughly enjoyed that game. It was obviously some issues with it, but I put 120 hours into it, and I wasn't disappointed. It just took a long time to get to where I need to get to, and I understand like the niche they were going for with that game. Um, but Andromeda, yeah, it was complete. It wasn't a complete letdown, but it was just the gameplay was there. I love the fucking gameplay. It was just everything else was just almost like Anthem. Like everything else was just not there for me personally.
Mhm.
So yeah, Bioware, like you said, has one more chance for me. They at least need to pull out a couple of sevens. If they can do that, then you know what? I still have faith in them. If they can't,
Man, if that's all they're capable of, though, that's
and that's
disappointing.
the problem. Like if that's all they're capable,
Yeah.
you had, I think it's going to be like 5 years with Dragon Age 2 or Dragon Age, whatever the fuck they call it. You had almost roughly 5 years with Dragon Age, and then I don't know how long it's going to take for you to make Mass Effect. Um, but if Dragon Age is to come out and it's at least not a set of 8, I'm probably just going to hang it up and be like, oh, well, we tried.
Yeah, that's part of the problem too. If you're gonna work on a game that long, like it better be good. It's like, why did you work on it so damn long? Then that's why Anthem's such a ridiculous like situation, because they worked on it for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't. I'm kind of with you. I don't like have high expectations, but I think we shouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess, because like the Mass Effect trilogy are like 3 of the best games ever made, in my opinion. As much as a lot of them, that each one has their own issues, but they're all great, phenomenal video
Yeah.
games. And that, if they can't even come close to that bar, then then BioWare is just a shadow of themselves at this point. So, which may be where we're at. Okay, let's move on. We got a couple more stories here. This is a short one. Gran Turismo, Sony has announced Gran Turismo 7 has been delayed to 2022. This is, not a big deal for us per se, but this is a big deal for Sony. Gran Turismo is still one of their biggest IPs in terms of exclusives, and it is honestly pretty much the biggest competitor to Forza,
And it has a
the
huge
Forza games.
esports scene, so this is really big.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. Disappointing, I'm sure, for some people, but Montrell, have you ever played a Gran Turismo game?
On the PS2, that was the last one I played. I didn't play the ones on the
Okay.
PS. I don't think there was one on PS3, was there?
Yeah, there was. There was 2.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't play the ones on the PS3. Only on the PS2, and I wasn't really into them like that. The ones I was into was like it was on the Xbox. I was an Xbox centric person back then, so I played like Project Gotham Racing and those type of games
Gotcha.
where they were trying to match what Gran Turismo was, and then I was playing other games, other racing games too, like Midnight Club, Dub Edition, and I liked games like that at the time, or racing games like that where you can really customize your cars. And Gran
Or
Turismo
like
was
Blur.
yeah,
You remember that game?
Blur, some other games like Need for
What was the
Speed,
other one that came out? Oh, there was a game that came out adjacent to Blur. Like they came out like the same fucking month.
Burnout.
And they were like, oh, what was it called? I can't remember
I
the
think it was
name of
called
it.
Burnout.
Ah, damn it. No. Keep going. I'm gonna try to figure this out.
But yeah, I played like Burnout, Blur, Need for Speed. I love those games. Yeah, I mean, this sucks. I'm not really a simulation driver type of person, but I know there are a lot of people who have built stations just for Gran Turismo and other racing games. So, I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is.
Oh yeah, Split Second. That's what it
Oh
was called.
yeah, I remember that
Do you
game.
remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah, these two games came out like literally on top of each other, I think. And yeah, they were complete. They were like compared to each other. I never played either one of them, and I feel like I'm less for that. Like I probably should play one of these because they seem like my kind of racing game. So um, yeah, maybe I'll check them out someday. But yeah, GT7 2022. So look forward to that, I guess. And our last story, this one's for Montrell. He put this one in the news. So a developer named Team Reptile announced a game, and it's called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. And it is coming out on Steam. And it is it looks like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, is what you said.
yeah.
So, Montreal, tell the people about this game. Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. So I guess the developer said if Sega's not going, I can't imagine Sega. They probably pitched it to Sega, and Sega said no. That's what I'm assuming. I can't imagine them not
Yeah,
doing this,
probably.
and because Sega also let another team, but they actually got the license for it. They let them do, Streets of Rage 4. So I thought this
Mm.
was a Sega game until I actually dove into it, and it's not. It's just some people, some indie company was like, "Hey, we really want to make this game." So the game is using parkour instead of skates. So in Jet Set Radio, you're on inline skates, but it's literally the same thing. You're in Tokyo. There's a bunch of gangs, and you have to spray paint your turf symbol, whatever your turf symbol is, on different things. You guys
Mm.
pretty much have a turf war. That's what Jet Set Radio was about. It was about you. Your gang is called Jet Set Radio. Um, and you're fighting these other gangs, like you're fighting these gangs called the Niners, these other gangs called I forgot, the Sewer Sharks or something like that. And you
Hmm.
had to tag, or use graffiti to tag your stuff and everything like that. And you're also like run away from the police and other shit like that. All the meanwhile, you're
Hmm.
listening to like these tunes coming from this pirate radio station, and he's playing like these crazy music that's actually like really fucking good and everything like that. Like I still have the soundtrack on my YouTube, and I downloaded it onto like my Spotify and everything like that because it's really
Hmm.
fucking good. Like it's probably one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, to be honest with you. Like this was like the first legit soundtrack I was listening to outside of like gaming like that. Because that's how good the soundtrack was for me. So it kind of rivals, like, just to give y'all terms, like it kind of rivals uh Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer games usually have really good soundtracks, and this game has a really good soundtrack to counter, like, to rival that, because the soundtrack you're listening to just matches the feel of what you're doing. And I don't know, it was just a whole experience for me, especially when I was younger, and I didn't travel much. So this was just like a look into, like, how Tokyo does things, because the game took place in Tokyo, but there are also other characters that were not obviously Japanese. They had black people on there, they had Latino people on there and everything of that nature. They had white American people in there and everything like that. And it was just in this crazy art style that can only be made by like a Sega type deal. It was almost like in that the cover art of Sonic Adventure 2, like it or Sonic
Hmm.
Adventure, it was like the cover art, but it was just weird and wacky, and they had all these you saw the art for that game. That art from the game, that
Yeah.
from Bomb Rush, it's literally copy and paste from Jet Set Radio. So it was just a
I remember Jet Set Radio's like look
yeah.
at least, and yeah, this looks very much like
Yeah,
it.
so
So
it was a huge part of my childhood growing up. I love this game. I loved Jet Set Radio Future. Still play it from time to time. Um, but I have recognized the game has aged a little bit. Like some of the camera controls are really crazy and everything of that nature. Even with the re-release they did, they really didn't fix a lot. It was just like a re-release. Um, but this game looks like they're gonna fix a lot of that stuff with the gameplay footage, and I like the parkour idea. Instead of using skates, you're using the parkour and everything like that. But you're still grinding on things and everything like that. Because a lot of people don't know, with the original game was called, it wasn't Jet Set Radio, it was Jet Grind Radio. And the whole thing was like, they're grinding on bars and stuff like that. And in that game, Jet Set Radio was released during the height of like X Games, video games. Like like
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
Tony Hawk games coming out, the BMX,
Yep.
Dave Mirra BMX, and you had snowboarding games come out. So this was just in that era of when those games were coming out, and it fit perfectly, and it was way different from those other games as well. Just enough to where it grabbed my attention, a lot of attention to other people. So yeah, if you guys love Jet Set Radio, look out for Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. It looks really good. It's Cyberfunk, not punk. Um, it's made by these people called Team Reptile, and it's going to be on Steam. They said they plan on bringing it to other platforms. I'm probably going to buy it as soon as it comes on Steam, and then they port it over to like the Switch and everything like that. Which it looks like it can be. It looks like it could be a Switch game. To be honest with you, I'm definitely going to buy it on the Switch as well. So be on the lookout for that.
Word. Well, check that one out, guys. All right, Montreal, we've made it to the end, and you were right as usual. I was sitting here before the show saying, "Oh, we could do this in an hour, hour and a half," and here we are, nearly 2 hours in, and fucking, rambling on like a couple fucking 30-year-old old men. Jesus Christ. Well, Montreal, you got anything you want to talk about before we go today?
Nope. That's pretty much it.
Okay, well, from these two old men, for those of you who's still here listening to us, we appreciate you very much. If you like this show, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on, and share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage. That is the number 4, not the word. That's for Montrell. I'm at ThunderNut01. The show is at The Player's Take. And if you want to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter or send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com, like I said at the beginning of the episode. And that is it for us, guys. Next week, we actually have a preview. There's a state of play happening tomorrow. We didn't push the show back for this. These damn things always happening on Thursday. It's the worst freaking day for us. But, state of play happening tomorrow. We will cover it next week. Don't you worry. We will absolutely be talking about it. So look forward to that. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next one. All right, bye.